What was the question? If men can also be oppressed? Yeah, I agree.
I think men are more oppressed than women.
I don't.
Okay.
I think that, like, traditionally and historically, they have had an easier time. They could have public office, they could vote, they could do all of these things.
Yeah, women could do those too.
Not until the last...
Now we can do it.
Yeah, now we can in recent times, but historically it's been more catered to men. So I think in general, men are less oppressed.
I mean, you do realize that throughout all of human... microphone came out of nowhere. Throughout all of human history, like 99% of men couldn't vote.
I wouldn't say it's 99% of men.
Yes, there were kings. Hold on,
Where's
hold on.
this stat from?
Okay, here, Damien, pull up some infographics here. So if you go, Damien, pull up the Discord infographics tab. So you had kings, monarchs, emperors, this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Powers was centralized in a very, very small amount of hands.
Democracy is a very new thing.
Yeah, so
Right.
in the United States, for example, the time period where all men could vote and when all women could vote, there was a 50-year difference. And you
Right.
might say,
but
well,
prior
hey,
to that, it
50
was still
years.
men voting. It might not have been all men, but it was still men voting. So you could say that people of color in that situation were oppressed because it was white men voting and people of affluence
I'm
voting.
not interested in the intersectional conversation. I'll have the conversation of like, because then we just, look, we can talk about like, well, okay, let's start doing intersection. Let's talk about like disabled people. We can talk about like all these different intersections of like how different groups of people and how they intersect were oppressed. We got to keep it to just like men and women.
Okay, then I disagree because I think historically men have been able to do things women cannot,
Like what?
including voting. And
For 50 years. There's a 50-year difference.
That's still 50 years.
Yeah,
of
let me ask you a question. So what
holding public office. There was a lot of different things that men could do that women couldn't.
So
Have your own credit card. You couldn't do that without a male signer.
Yeah, so going to the voting thing though, Damien, do you have the infographics tab pulled up? Go ahead, pull it up for me so I can get this going. Yeah, percentage of there's a different one that I think's X out that really quick. Yeah, this one's a bit better. Countries with universal right to vote. So the the brown, no universal right to vote. So that's going back to 1789. In 1850, some men started getting the right to vote. And then you had but it was very small. And then, this is universal. This is this is an amalgamation of different countries. Can you go back to the other one? Yeah. So, wait, is there another one? Just those two? Okay, do that first one. So I believe this is in parliamentary. I believe this is in the UK then. So the pink is women, blue is men. So 1600, 1700, 1800, you did have like a small proportion of men, but like that leaves 98% of men who couldn't vote. And then what you end up seeing is there's a brief period for about 50 years there where like a bit more men could vote and then a bit more men could vote. And then in just a 50 years time, it just completely equalized. Now, and that happened in like the early 1900s. Do you know when the women's right to vote, when it was ratified, the 19th Amendment?
I don't remember, no.
It was like 1920 is when it was ratified.
18 or 19, yeah.
1920. Do you know what happened right before 1920?
Like in general?
Big world event.
Yeah.
The war, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
World War I.
World War I.
So here's a major difference. I don't know about you, but if I was an 18-year-old in 1914 living in Germany or France, I think I would trade my right to vote to not be sent to like Amiens or like the Ardennes forest or some sort of like offensive in North Africa and just like have like absolutely insane trench foot, as he said, or have shell shock and have permanent tinnitus where my ears are ringing from like the constant bombardment. I think I would have rather been a woman at 18 in 1914 living in Europe than being a man. But by the way, most men even then, a lot of them didn't even have the right to vote. But men got the right to vote because they had more duty. They had more responsibility. You women got to dodge the ultimate sacrifice would be having to die for your country. And so men got, As a woman, you can't be drafted to go to war. The government can't force you to go to war, right? I think men should have more say if their government representatives can say, okay, we're going to send you to war to go die. I kind of think that was the fair trade-off.
How about today? Would you be a woman if you could? Would you trade being a man for being a woman since you're so oppressed and so sad?
I mean, I'm happy to articulate ways in which men are disadvantaged. I think I'm also happy being a man.
Okay,
but it's not, I think there are certain privileges that women have that trump those of my supposed male privilege.
Because now you can vote and you don't have to go to war. You have all of the luxuries.
But
I mean, we still, guys, being a woman is pure pain. It just looks flashy because we, put the makeup on and all the flashy stuff, but it's mostly painful. Like, we're emotional beings. We gotta bleed every month for 35 plus years. Then the menopause, it's like we get like 1 week a month to be a human. It sucks. It's just.
I mean, but some of the things you listed were biological in nature that you can't really do anything about.
Exactly, but you guys get the advantage on that. I think having a male body.
The fact that we don't have to have a period is an advantage.
I mean, do you want to contend with the argument, though? I mean, you obviously disagree with me. You think my position is untenable. Do you want to forward? Really? I mean, that's kind of disappointing that you don't want to have a back and forth.
I said my piece. I don't think we're going to agree on it. That's my stance. I think you guys are also oppressed. I think we're oppressed in different ways. It doesn't mean that you're more oppressed or less oppressed. It's just different. But
so for what I was trying to say about the voting, vast majority of human history, nobody had the right to vote. It was monarchs, dictators, kings, queens, emperors, whatever. Then, because of warfare, men had to be forced to go to war. Men had a greater vested interest in saying I don't want to get sent to Passchendaele. I don't want to go get sent to one of these offensive fronts in some European country to fight some war because Archduke Franz Ferdinand got fucking capped by Serbian? Serbian. What was his name? Fucking Gavril Princip or whatever. Okay, anyways, I'm getting fucking in the weeds here.
But even with the credit cards and stuff too, the fact of the matter is that men had to incur all of the debt. So they had to incur all of their wife's debt as well. And then they were responsible for that. So women actually didn't even have to have the burden of a credit card either. The men had to incur all of the debt.
But you still had to have a signer for a credit card until much more recently than that standard was the case.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is if you're in a marriage with a man and say it goes wrong, the man has to incur all of the woman's debt. Right. And even nowadays, it's like women are like a burden on the welfare system, and particularly when it comes to credit cards, like they are in a lot more debt than men, single women. Not good spenders.
They're like 80% of the consumer base or something like that. Look, was it unfair that women didn't have the right to vote for a period of 50 years as compared to men? Sure, but
even then there was a massive debate with the suffragettes and the women who didn't want to actually have the vote because they were like, we don't want to do jury duty. We don't want to go to war. We don't want to do all of these sorts of things. That's not our job as women. And they were debating it out. But unfortunately, there was huge financial interests that, wanted to bring women into the workforce and have them vote.
I mean, and then the other thing that occurs to me is that women secured the right to vote without any of the corresponding responsibilities that men had. Like, even to this day, 2025, women are not subject to military conscription. You don't have to register for the selective service. Men do. If you don't, it's a felony. It's a $250,000 fine. You can be barred from certain federal jobs. You can't get federal student loans. There's some other ramifications. You can't vote. You can't vote. As a man, being able to vote is tied to you registering for the selective service, which would potentially no matter what, even if you don't register for that shit, they can still draft you. But as men, you're subject to military conscription. I mean, you seem really big on bodily autonomy. This is a bodily autonomy issue for men. Like, governments, every single state in the world, there's maybe, I think Israel's the only one that drafts women, or maybe, I don't know.
And even then they do support roles.
Right.
Most of the time.
God, I wish I can go to war right now.
That's great.
Just get blown up.
Cool. So in the United States anyways, just to keep it local, men can have their bodily autonomy taken away from them. As somebody who's like a bodily autonomy, you seem like a bodily autonomy advocate. I feel like you should be a bit more on the side of men on this issue. To at least make it equal between men and women, you should be advocating for women being subject.
One was more than the other. I said they're very different. You guys have different gender roles.
They have each other's backs. Example A, at the beginning, everybody's phones got taken away except for Jake's. Why? Because they're like, oh, we're buddies, we're men, keep your phone.
That's right, male privilege.
Why? Why he gets male privilege?
It's not even male privilege. It's he's been on the show like a dozen
He's your
times.
Friend.
Privilege.
I get it.
No, because Jake knows not to be looking at his phone and being disrespectful and rude during the conversation.
It felt like it was like, oh, only the women give your phones because you'll be taking.
Yeah, because you guys are more likely to be checking your phone and stuff, whereas I have respect for Brian's show and I understand the rules and I'm going to stick to the rules and he knows that. You know what that's called? Reciprocity. And it's called just having a trustful relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Like, here's the reality. And actually, when I first started the podcast, never took phones away. I think, I don't know, first 40, 50 shows, maybe, I don't know when we started it, at least 50 plus shows, never took phones away. You know what ended up happening? People were on their phone, not paying attention to the conversation. It's also just rude to begin with. And I'm, Natasha, not trying to call you out. You've been checking your little it's look, not a big deal, whatever.
You've been have a really long drive.
That's fine. But I'm saying, like, you know, there is something to when it comes to respect and not being on your phone when you're engaged in like a conversation and listening to the person, whether it's me talking, one of you talking, etc. It's just kind of, that's why we take the phones away.